All right, so we have the pocket for the second apron, so apron B. I have cut them out like you would have done with your other pockets on the other video. And I'm going to put some detail at the top here. So I'm going to put a band up there. I'm going to come over here to the ironing board, and I'm going to turn this down 1 centimeter, and I'm going to iron it. And then I will show you what it looks like and how to place it onto your fabric. Okay, so I've actually measured 1.5 centimeters. All seam allowances generally are 1.5 centimeters, and this gives you plenty of space to make things bigger or smaller. So 1.5 centimeters is your standard. And so I've measured down and I've ironed. So I've got both the pieces ironed. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to place them on my fabric. So I'm going to bring my fabric over, and with the wrong side to the right side on the back of the fabric, so you're going to have this flap showing, you're going to pin this here like that, and then straight stitch sew it, and I will show you that next. Okay, so here's my 2 pockets. Okay, I've pinned about 1.5 centimeters down from the edge. Once again, 1.5 centimeters is the standard. Okay, you will learn it. It's about a think width. Okay, so if you can't put your pinky finger along the sides between the edge of the fabric and your pins, you are pinning too close. Also, make sure that you're pinning it to the top of the pocket, that your pattern is the right way up. You do not want to have upside down pattern on your pocket. Otherwise, we'll make you unpick it and start again. So what we're going to do now is sew along the top of this pocket with a straight stitch. We're going to do reverse here and a reverse here. All right, make sure you've pinned so that as you pin, as you sew, your pins are going to be facing, the heads are going to be facing you. All right, so my fabric is in the sewing machine. I have lined it up with this line on the strike plate here. So it's that very first line. If your needle is in position number 1, okay, so there's number 1 position, that will make that 1.5 centimeters. Okay, it needs to be 1.5 centimeters. All right, you need to reverse at the start and the end of your stitching and sew all the way to the end. All right, so I'm going to get going. So I'm going to start to 1, 2, 3 stitches, reverse 1, 2, 3 stitches. Now I'm going to remove my pin and place it in my pin cushion. Have your pin cushion on the side of your sewing machine where your dominant hand is. So I'm going to put mine on the right side because it's my dominant hand, right? Also, when you're placing any fabric, always make sure that you have most of the fabric on the outside of the sewing machine. So you'll always pin. You don't want to have all of this fabric inside here. It's too awkward, and that's when you sew things together that you don't want to sew together. So make sure that it's on the outside of the fabric. And I'm going to sew all the way to the end. Oops, my cotton get caught up in that little thread there. So just fix that. All right, pull it away. This is what happens when you sew with one hand. Okay, so try and keep it on that edge so that I might come back and fix that. If you don't do it properly, you may have to go back and repair. So I'm going to reverse at the end. All right, All right, so I accidentally went a little bit off line here. So I'm actually going to fix that by going sort of just before I went off, and I put my needle back in, and I'm going to push down, I'm going to go forward, going to go back a couple of stitches because you always reverse, and then I'm going to make sure during that bit there that I'm sewing it straight. Can you see that? And we just get back to where I got in, back on normal, and I'm going to reverse. So you don't want to have, I'm going to lift my needle and I'll show you. So have a look, see where I went a little bit off line? I need it to be straight. So I don't need to unpick this because it's on the inside of the seam, but you need to make sure that you've got a straight line all the way across. So I'm going to cut that and I'm going to go and iron it. So here is my sewn piece, and I need to actually just iron this up like that so that it's nice and crisp. So when I fold it over, I'm not going to have any bubbles or any problems with the other side. So I've ironed that flat. I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to get rid of this thread here. I'll tuck that in. okay, and I'm going to iron it. I'll cut that off in a minute. And I'm going to iron it over like this. Okay, so you don't want to see any of the pocket showing, okay? So you want to have it ironed over, one-handed ironing, just the top there. So I just want to lift that up there a bit and iron it. I'm going to give it a hit of steam so that it stays nice and flat, okay? And so that is going to be the top part of your pocket, all right? And I'm going to show you, I'm going to pin it closed. I'm going to pin this edge here closed, and I'll show you what it looks like. All right. Okay, so here is, I'm just going to sew right along this edge here. I'm going to go nice and close, about 1 millimeter away from the edge, just so I close the top of this pocket. I'm actually going to just start it and then I will turn off. So once again, I'm going to start, I'm going to reverse. You see how close I'm sewing to the edge? I take that pin out and I'm going to sew to the end, and then I'll show you. I have sewn this bottom edge nice, and now it's closed, and I'm actually going to sew the top edge as well, just to make it look neat. So I'm going to put the little line on the foot there. You see that little line? We're going to put that on the edge of the fabric, and we're going to sew all the way to the end. I'm going to do that with 2 hands. All right, so there is the detail on our pocket. Now at this point, you can choose to put some lace on it. You can put lace here and here, and I might go and see if I can find both. Remember, you've got to reverse, 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 all right, at the beginning and end. Anytime you do straight stitching, you reverse at the beginning and end. Okay, I've decided to put this lovely little piece of lace at the top of my pocket, okay, and I've just pinned it, and I'm going to sew in that little channel there at the very top of the pocket. Okay, so I put it up in my machine and line it up so that the channel is where I sew. You see that I'm going to put my needle in, okay, and I'm going to sew that all the way to the end. Once again, I'm going to reverse at the start and the finish. We have our pocket and it's all edged. It has its little cap. We're going to turn it over, okay, and we actually have to fold up this bottom edge 1.5 centimeters and iron it, and then fold over the side edges 1.5 centimeters and iron it, okay? So you're going to use your ruler or a tape measure, and you're going to make sure that you get the 1.5 centimeters all the way around, okay? So you bring your so there's your 1.5 centimeters. So that's how far I have to iron that over, okay? This is what your pocket is going to look like when you're done, okay? So you'll fold it over. So see how these corners are a little bit messy? What I want you to do is open it up and fold it in so that the point is showing, and then you can fold both pieces. It's really hard to do, but you can with one hand, but you want to fold it in so that your point looks like a little picture frame, okay? So you'll end up with like a little point like that, okay? And that's how I want you to pin it onto your apron. Here, I've folded it in. There's like a little point there now, and I'm just going to hit it with the seam so that it stays in place. And so what you end up with, get that piece of thread out of the way, is like a little corner that overlaps, and then you won't have any dirty edges showing through when you sew it onto your apron. Okay, when you go to place your pockets, I had actually already sewn these on and I messed up the video the first time. So I want you to use this big ruler. Place the big ruler along the edge of your fabric, and then I want you to place one of the numbers, the halfway mark, that's 12, on the center line. So you'll have ironed this line in here by folding your fabric over and ironing it so it's nice and even, and you have a center of your fabric. You want to place the ruler here at the bottom of your fabric and place your pockets on top. Make sure the distance you put between the pockets is the same. This is 2 inches, this is 2 inches. We don't generally work in inches, but this is 5 centimeters and this is 5 centimeters, okay? Make sure, however, you can place it 2 centimeters. You can put them really close together if you want, I don't mind. Don't take them too far to the side or else they're not going to be very useful pockets. Whatever you do at the placement of your pockets, this side has to be the same as this side, okay? They must match. Even if you put them on an angle or if you put them up higher, you need to have them the same. They need to be the same on this side as they are on this side, okay? So when you pin them on, make sure that they're centered and accurate. Okay, so I have pinned around the edge. Okay, so you're going to sew. You're going to start here and you're going to sew all the way around, turning and going all the way back. Just sew a little bit off the edge when you start and finish so that it holds the pocket in place really well. And I'll show you that when I sew. We're going to start just before the edge. Remember, you're going to have the small amount of fabric inside and the large amount of fabric on the outside when you're sewing. Put your needle in, and you definitely have to reverse. You must reverse at the beginning and end of the pocket, starting before the start of the pocket. So go forward and then reverse, back off the pocket, go back about 3 stitches and then go back on again. Okay, and then sew all the way to the corner, turn and sew all the way around. All right, so I've sewn all the way around the pocket, and can you see that I've sewn just a little bit off the edge of the top? I've actually decided I want to do another row of stitching parallel to that, and so I'm going to line up my fabric inside here with the inside of this window, so it goes to sit along the edge of the window, and I'm going to do a second row of stitching to just to strengthen the pocket. This will make it a bit stronger. You don't have to do this, but it looks good and it will make the pocket nice and strong. Make sure you always trim all the excess threads off your fabric too. So just when you're done, you either use the little cutter on the side here, or you just get your scissors or your snips and snip your threads so that you don't have any little dangly bits. This is what the pocket looks like with the second row of stitching. Remember, it's a pocket, so don't sew this closed. And once again, you've sewn off the edge. I'm going to just trim off some of these little fluffy bits. But see, I've got the 2 rows of stitching all the way around. Nice strong pocket, and it's not going to come off. There we have 2 pockets attached. Remember, they need to be the same distance from here and the same distance from here, or the same distance from the edge, okay? So they need to be on your apron in the same spot on either side.